Hey everybody, thought I would do an update since everything kind of went crazy last week. Please don't mind all the spots on my face. Makeup's not an option today for me. But some craziness went down. I was kind of quiet about it on Facebook because honestly I was really scared. And I know I got a little superstitious about jinxing something by putting it on Facebook. So we were pretty quiet. Jada did put up a post about it, and then I commented on it. But other than that, we kind of kept it to ourselves. So basically, what happened is, over the 2 weeks since I've had my last chemo, I'll have my next one next week. I'd had some kind of reactions and stuff, and we thought it was just for the chemo. Okay, I was running like a low grade fever at around 99, kind of constantly. I got bumps all over, like, don't mind Khaleesi, she's just laying down here. All over my arms, and my head, and then it traveled to my neck and my chest, my stomach, and then it was going down to my legs. Like, I had a couple on my legs, it was going everywhere. And we thought it was, folliculitis. So we didn't really think anything of it. Well, I went in to see my oncologist, and all these bumps were bright red, like bright red. And I had been, putting hydrogen peroxide on them and then putting cortisone cream on them, just trying to keep from getting infected and keep everything from being inflamed. But they were still bright red when I went into my oncologist. So, she had called the dermatologist over to look at it, and I was going to have an appointment with him and do a biopsy and all kinds of stuff because I didn't know what was going on. Well, I went for hydration the next day. Was it the next day? No, it was that day. I went for hydration after I had my doctor's visit. And then at the end of my hydration, my face felt like super hot, and I didn't know why. So I got home and I took my temperature we have one of the ones that you put on your forehead and it takes your temperature. And it said I had 101.5 fever. Well, let's try this again. Anything over 100.4. Sorry, I had a phone call and now my brain's gone. I'm supposed to call my doctor immediately. And, 101.5 was, above that. So I called and they told me to go to the ER. They wanted me to go to the one in Irving because that's where my oncologist is. And by the time I got there, they were doing like the mouth thermometers, and I wasn't coming up with a fever. But my face was still super hot. I had body aches, and I felt horrible. I was super nauseous. So they ended up admitting me, and they did some blood cultures, and it turned out that I had MRSA in my blood, which is it's considered blood poisoning. You've also maybe heard it on like Grey's Anatomy and stuff being called sepsis when your blood is poisoned. And typically, if you read online, which I should have never done, of MRSA infections in the blood, typically people don't live through those. What it does is it attaches itself to your vital organs. Like, I had to have an echocardiogram because it likes to attach itself to heart valves. And if that had happened, I would have had to have open heart surgery to replace my heart valves. It likes to, attach to your lungs. It likes to attach to, vital organs. Any place I had pain, like I had pain in my lower back, so they did an MRI to see if it had progressed to there, and it hadn't. I didn't have any cancer in my lower back, so that's good. And I did an ultrasound of my liver and my pancreas and I think my kidneys, like just everything, because it likes to hide. It likes to stick to your organs and hide, and once it does that, it's basically killing that organ. So the doctor had me repeat to him what he was going to be doing because I was just kind of blank faced and being like, okay. Because he didn't think that I understood the severity of it, but when he left, it was just kind of like shock. I'm sitting in this hospital room and I have cancer, but I might die of something like completely different. And they think it originated with my port. I had a Metaport in my left side so that I could get my chemo, because my chemo can't be done through regular IV. It can burn up the small veins and stuff, so it has to be done either through a PICC line or a central line or a Metaport. And I had a Metaport in. They had to take it out no matter what because blood infections like to stick to plastic, and no matter how many antibiotics they gave me, it would never take it off that plastic. So they had to take my Metaport out, and then they put in a PICC line until I can get my Metaport put back in because that is another surgery. But it was terrifying. You know, I could have died. Like, it's a very high rate of death when it comes to sepsis. Once it gets in your blood, that is a very bad thing, and you can die from it. You know, it's something that lives on our skin, but it's not supposed to go in our body, and then once it does, it can kill us. So it was a really hard week, kind of trying to wrap my brain around it, staying another week in the hospital. If you know anything about my backstory, I'm constantly in the hospital for weeks for my Crohn's, so it wasn't something I was happy about. I wanted to be home with my family. It's been really weird. Like, I'm used to sharing my daughter because me and my ex-husband have been split since she was born. And, you know, she's got grandparents and stuff that love her, that want to see her. So I'm used to her going off. But there's just something about her being home right now. I don't like it when she leaves. Like, I just want her, even if she's not in the room with me, you know, just having her in the house makes me feel better. And I know it's probably, you know, mental with the cancer and stuff like that. But having to be away from my family for a week was really hard. And, you know, thinking, you know, this could be it. So my organs could just start failing out of nowhere. And it was really terrifying. I couldn't talk about it because if I started talking about it, I would break down, and I don't like to break down. I don't cry in front of other people. It's just not who I am. You know, I internalize it. I keep it to myself. You know, with my anxiety too, like, I keep that to myself. It was really hard, and especially since I thought I was getting discharged, and right before she was like, "Oh, you're gonna do this, you know, bag of IV for 30 minutes, and then I'm gonna come in and give your discharge papers on Monday." And then when she came back in, she's like, "Your discharge has been canceled." I was like, "What?" And it was because apparently my liver enzymes jumped like three to four times higher than they were the day before. We did an ultrasound, everything was fine. They went back down the next day. We don't know why that happened, but they weren't going to let me leave until everything was clear. So my cultures came out clear. I was able to leave. Since I do have a PICC line, what I have to do is I have my antibiotics here in the refrigerator, and I do 3 infusions a day into my PICC line, and that's going to last for 4 weeks to make sure that all the infection is out of my system. And then I'll have chemo next week and stuff. So it's been pretty rough. You know, you think cancer's the worst thing, and that, you know, nothing else can kind of top that. And then this happens. And, you know, it's really hard because, they itch, and I can't itch them because it'll take the scab off. It's what they call a human Band-Aid in the hospital, and it drives me nuts. But it was basically the reason I got all this folliculitis was because it was the sepsis, the MRSA, coming up through from my blood into my skin. It had gone to the point where it was starting to push through into my skin and cause it to react. So we don't know when I got it. We know, you know, it had been at least 2 weeks, which was hard for my doctor because then it's hard to find the origin of what happened and be able to beat it. But thankfully, the antibiotics started working and everything started getting better. So it's been just insanity in my head for the past week. Like, I would go on Facebook, I'm like, I don't even know what to say. Like, "Hey everyone, just hanging out, trying not to die." Like, what do you say? I don't think a lot of people knew the severity of it because people, you know, that's medical speak isn't something that most people know. But I believe, you know, most people have heard of sepsis, you know, and MRSA. But yeah, blood poisoning is not something to mess around with. So that's what's been going on. Just trying to get my head back from that space, being happy I'm home. I passed out last night. I don't even remember going to sleep. I just passed out. Normally when I get home from the hospital, I'll sleep for like 16 hours. But, I'm just blessed. And, you know, if I can kick this sepsis ass, then, you know, cancer, I got you. I got your number. I'm coming for you, you know? None of this is fun. None of this puts your body in a place that feels good. Even coming from having an invisible illness before, of having Crohn's colitis for 14, almost 15 years, you think that kind of can prepare you for the pain you'll go through or the mental anguish of you going to the doctors all the time. Khaleesi, get out of my face. Get out of my face. But it doesn't. But I've got lots of support and love. See? Lots of support and love. See, hi, Khaleesi. See my underbite, people? I'm constantly pouty. But it's good. It's good to be home. So, if you wonder why I was quiet and silent, it was just a personal thing. You know, I had to get through it before I could talk about it. Life is like that sometimes. I still don't think I've fully processed it, you know, how close I came. But I'm really glad that we did go to the hospital and we got it taken care of. Because God knows what would happen if, you know, I had just kind of shrugged it off and stayed at home. Yes. Alright, so somebody needs attention. Somebody needs attention. So I'll be back on here. Didn't mean to leave y'all hanging, but, you know, life was happening. Severely, life was happening. But I love y'all, and I will talk to y'all soon. I'm going to lie here and get better and rest and wait for my next infusion. I just had my first one this morning. All right. Mwah. Love you. Bye.